High on an industrial platform, a single misstep changes everything. He loses balance, tipping backward into a terrifying, uncontrolled fall. The impact below is brutal, the consequences irreversible. This scene is a stark reminder. When working at heights, proper fall protection isn't just a rule, it's your lifeline. Always be secured. Inside the factory, a worker reaches deep into the machine's core. Without warning, the gears roar to life. In one violent, lightning-fast motion, he is pulled inside, vanishing completely. A terrifying lesson in machine safety. Lockout/tagout procedures are not optional. Always de-energize before you approach. Your well-being depends on it. At an industrial plant, a worker focuses on routine maintenance, unaware of the imminent danger below. In a flash, a violent blast erupts. A massive fireball engulfs the area, offering no time to react and no chance of escape. This is a terrifying reminder that in hazardous zones you must always be aware of the unseen dangers around you. In this workshop, one touch ignites a terrifying ordeal. A man grabs a metal shelf and a massive electric current seizes him. His body convulses violently, his hand fused to the source. A frantic rescue begins as co-workers pull with all their might, but the powerful shock won't let go. Never touch a victim directly. Cut the power source first. In a workshop, a man is focused on his task, crouched in the shadow of a massive block. In a horrifying split second, the towering weight begins to tip. It crashes down with unstoppable force, completely engulfing the space where he was. Never work in a potential crush zone. Always verify that heavy loads are completely stable and secured before approaching. A routine walk along a flatbed turns critical. This worker moves alongside tons of unsecured metal sheeting. Without warning, the entire stack shifts and collapses, instantly burying him under the immense weight. A catastrophic failure. Always identify and stay clear of potential fall zones. Your position is your protection. In a vast warehouse, two men make a critical error, cramming into a one-person forklift. The machine tips, its mast striking the racking. Instantly, a catastrophic domino effect begins, as tons of steel and product come crashing down in a terrifying wave of destruction. Never exceed a vehicle's passenger capacity. In a cramped alley, a worker assists an excavator from inside the trench. The machine pushes against the wall's base, and in a violent instant, it shatters. A wave of brick and dust explodes inward, burying him completely. A horrific reminder that no one should ever be in a trench during active excavation. The collapse zone is unforgiving. In an industrial workshop, workers observe a massive assembly. Without warning, a multi-ton section of the structure detaches and plummets. It crashes down in an instant, a catastrophic failure of support that engulfs one man. A chilling lesson. Always verify the integrity of all load-bearing components and maintain a clear escape path. A worker steps past the factory's safety fence. Without warning, the huge gantry robot roars to life, swinging a massive panel at high speed just over his head. A chillingly close call. This is why you never enter an active automation cell. Always lock out and tag out the equipment before any entry. A factory floor. A worker leans in to inspect a powerful industrial roller. In a horrifying instant, his arm is caught. The machine violently pulls his entire body onto the spinning cylinder, entangling him with the shredding fabric in a terrifying rotation. One moment of proximity can lead to a catastrophic outcome. Always de-energize machinery before any hands-on interaction. A routine ride through a tunnel becomes a terrifying ordeal. Suddenly, the transport system catastrophically fails, accelerating to an uncontrollable speed. Workers are thrown from their seats and dragged helplessly, tumbling across the rough ground and sharp steel tracks. Meticulous equipment inspections can prevent such catastrophic events. On the factory floor, a worker adjusts the rolling machine, his hands dangerously close to the active mechanism. In a horrifying instant, the rollers catch his arm, violently pulling his entire body into the machine with unstoppable force. A grim lesson. Never interact with powered-on equipment. Always use proper lockout-tagout procedures before any maintenance. In an office, a man leaps over a counter and touches a standing fan. Instantly, a violent current seizes his body. He's locked in place, convulsing uncontrollably as the electricity surges through him. He can't let go. In this situation, never touch the person directly. Immediately cut the power source or use a non-conductive object to break their contact with the current. At an industrial mixer, a worker cleans head down. Unseen, a colleague activates the machine. The massive steel arm descends without warning, trapping their head in a devastating crush. A horrific, preventable mistake. Always use lockout/tagout procedures to de-energize equipment and visually confirm the area is clear before operation. Your awareness is the last line of defense. In a glass workshop, a furious argument turns physical. A violent shove sends two men hurtling backward into a towering rack of glass panes. The impact is catastrophic, unleashing a storm of razor-sharp shards. One man falls, motionless, into the glittering debris. A split-second decision can have devastating consequences. Always de-escalate conflict in hazardous environments. In a warehouse, a worker pushes against a forklift for balance. A critical error. The machine tips, trapping him. But the disaster isn't over. The entire multi-ton storage rack then collapses onto the wreckage, burying the scene in a cascade of steel. Never use heavy machinery for support. A chain reaction can be instantaneous and overwhelming. In this industrial laundry, a worker is absorbed in his routine. But a critical oversight creates immense tension. With his head just inches from the machine's powerful grip, his unsecured hair is a ticking time bomb. One wrong move could lead to a life-altering incident. Always secure loose hair and clothing near moving parts. It can make all the difference. On the factory floor, a worker feeds a roll of material into an industrial machine. A slight miscalculation, and his arm is caught. The machine's immense, unforgiving force pulls him in completely in a horrifying instant. A stark warning: always keep a safe distance from moving parts and know the location of every emergency stop. On a vast frozen worksite, a man in a red hard hat is focused on his task, oblivious to the danger overhead. But high above, the tower crane begins to tilt. With a sickening groan, the steel snaps at its base. The entire structure plummets in a catastrophic failure, smashing into the ground in a cloud of debris. A terrifying reminder: always be aware of overhead hazards. Inside the massive industrial press, a worker adjusts a mechanism, oblivious to the tons of steel descending from above. He looks up, not to escape, but to brace for the inevitable. The immense weight makes contact, pinning him instantly against the platform. A chilling lesson: always de-energize and lock out machinery before any maintenance. Your awareness is your first defense. On a busy construction site, a worker is absorbed in his task on a truck, oblivious to the danger overhead. In a flash, the rigging fails. The entire pallet plummets, exploding in a violent cloud of dust just inches away from him. A terrifyingly close call. Always stay clear of suspended loads and be aware of your surroundings. Your life may depend on it. In a repair shop, two mechanics perform a routine task. Suddenly, the tire ruptures in a catastrophic, instantaneous blast. The immense concussive force hurls both men violently, their forms swallowed by the explosive cloud of debris. Never work on these tires without a safety cage. It's the only thing that stands between you and this kind of raw, unrestrained power. Inside this warehouse, a foolish choice is made. Lying headfirst on the moving belt, he is dragged helplessly towards the top. Every second pulls him closer to the powerful, unforgiving gears of the sorting system. A chilling warning to all: industrial machinery is not an amusement park ride. Stay off, stay safe. In this workshop, a worker moves across the floor, seemingly unaware of the hazard above. He passes directly in the drop zone of a massive, glowing hot slab of metal, held only by a magnet. One mechanical failure, one power flicker, and the outcome is unthinkable. Never, ever walk under a suspended load. Your awareness is your best protection. In a train depot, a worker conducts a routine check atop a platform. He reaches for equipment on the carriage roof, a simple, everyday motion. In a blinding flash, a massive electrical explosion erupts, the raw power throwing him violently from his post. A horrifying reminder: always assume equipment is live until you have personally verified it is de-energized. On a quiet town road, a crane operator barrels forward, completely oblivious. The massive, unsecured boom looms over his cab, a steel titan against the sky. Then, a sudden, jarring impact with an unseen overhead obstacle brings everything to a devastating halt. Always fully retract and secure your equipment before transit. Your clearance is not a suggestion. On this industrial job site, a worker walks beneath a heavy lift. In a horrifying instant, the crane boom buckles under the immense strain. Tons of steel and machinery plummet downwards, engulfing the man's position in a catastrophic collapse. Always maintain a safe distance from overhead loads and stay out of the drop zone. Your awareness is your best protection.